All right, y'all, what's up, man? March the 4th, 2025. Welcome to the podcast with Soul. The podcast with Soul, Stigmatism in My Soul, Gumby Publishing. Myself, Sean Xavier Gumby Sr., nor my son, Sean Xavier Gumby Jr. Do we wish to hurt anybody? Do we wish to defame, libel, or slander anybody with the content of this video, which is dealing with a court case? We are going to be coming today straight from publicly available court documents. You could download these documents on Pacer. These are publicly available, right? And today we're going to be coming from October 18th, 2016, Frank's hearing. Okay? United States of America versus Dion Lamont Gatlin, which we all know as Cuffy. This is down in St. Louis, the Eastern District of Missouri, Eastern Division. All right? And that's where I came from yesterday, right? From this Frank's hearing. So, today, it's good, y'all. It's I'm fascinated by this case, man, to say the least. This is one of the most fascinating things I've ever read, and I can't wait every day to wake up and read some more. You understand? So today we're dealing with Jack Harvey is still on the stand. He's being cross-examined by Welby. Welby is mean, man. Welby is Gibbs's attorney. And let me give you a brief synopsis first off the top of the dome, and then I'm going to support everything I say off the top of the dome with the actual publicly available court documents, right? So, Welby starts off by talking about payments to Tammy Cowins, right? And the first thing he talks about, and I got to go over that, I got to copy that. Cuffy put in a motion to suppress electronic surveillance, or the wiretaps, right? And this is live TV, y'all. The government denied the motion to suppress and went ahead with the electronic surveillance. They allowed that to be admissible in court. So Welby asks Jack Harvey about that. Is he aware of that? Right? And then we're going to get to that. Then he gets into the Terry White case again. The Terry White case never seems to go away. It's always being brought up somehow. And today, y'all, it gets pretty deep. And what he talks about is, if you remember initially, with the documents that we've gone over, it was always my estimation and my understanding that Tammy Cowins just out of the blue, for fear of being caught up in a money laundering situation, just went in to see Jack Harvey, and that's how the Terry White case began. But today, we got a different take on it, man, a whole different take. And in here, it talks about that how Tammy Cowins gets introduced to Jack Harvey is an ex-con, somebody who's locked up, who Tammy Cowins is talking to about what Terry White is doing with her, which is asking her to take her credit card and go buy cashier's checks for, say, $40,000, right? And then give them to him, make the cashier's check out to Terry White's company, and then Terry White will give her back $50,000 to pay off the credit card and put a little dime in her pocket for her time, right? So Tammy Cowins is talking to this ex-con who already knew Jack Harvey. She's telling him about it. And then the ex-con tells her, yo, man, you in trouble, man. You know what I'm saying? Man, you finna get jammed up. Go see my man Jack Harvey. This is what the ex-con nigga tell Tammy to do. Go see my man Jack Harvey. She like, all right, bet. Then the ex-con nigga calls Jack Harvey and gives him the heads up like, yo, this lady's gonna call you. Boom. Then Tammy Cowins calls Jack Harvey, and then Terry White gets busted, right? And, right? So now, this is the thing. Check Sean G out. Hold up. Let me get some coffee. Hold up. I make the dope coffee. This is the thing. Jack Welby doesn't believe that story. Jack Welby, the attorney for Gibbs, an attorney for the defense, right? He's the attorney for Gibbs, but this is all helping Cuffy at the same time. He doesn't believe that story. And what he proceeds to do is to differentiate a CS versus a CI. CS is a confidential source. A CI is a cooperating individual. Now, what this implies is this. The confidential source, the CS, is playing the role, acting as if everything is fly, and reporting information to the 5-0. A cooperating individual is somebody that's jammed up in something and they in trouble. Oh, please help me. Let me what I got to do. And that's a cooperating individual, and they're providing information to help themselves. Now, remember, I think if you look at the bottom of the motion to suppress, where Jack Harvey expresses that Tammy Cowins was the heart and soul of that case. She didn't have a criminal record. She wasn't a defendant, all that kind of stuff. And he even said yesterday, remember we went over it when I think it was either Herman or Humphrey was cross-examining him yesterday. Humphrey, that Tammy Cowins wouldn't have been charged anyway. Like what she was doing, she wouldn't have been charged, right? And there was no case. There was no Terry White case until Tammy Cowins goes and sees Jack Harvey at the direction of this ex-con who we don't know who it is. Now, Jack Harvey on the stand, and we're going to get into this, says that Welby asks him, like, yo, why do you think my man, the ex-con nigga, sent Tammy Cowins to you? And he says that it might have been like some jealousy thing, some rival for her affection, right? They're fighting over her attention. They're fighting over her affection. You know, that part. Then they talk about the payments. She's getting $2,500 a month, right? Now, we also talked about early on, if you go back and you watch my earlier videos on this case, it's mentioned that $55,000 is what Tammy Cowins received for her reward, for her award in the Terry White case. Now, the Terry White case finishes up in 2011. And when she reaches back out to Jack Harvey again in February 2013, after Jack Harvey retires, he has no more contact with Tammy Cowins until February 2013, right? Which is around the same time Cuffy gets busted, right? And up until February 2013, she ain't got no money. She didn't get no award, right? The case finished up with Terry White in 2011. I put you in for an award. Where the cheese at? So you gotta wait. You waited what? over a year, 15 months or whatever, 16 months to get your award. And that's what Welby is saying. Where did I go with that? I lost my train of thought. That's what Welby is kind of implying, that there was no award for the Terry White case because she was implicated in money laundering. She was in trouble for money laundering, right? And she was a cooperating individual, a CI instead of a CS, right? So there really was no award for the Terry White joint. But this money that she gets, boom. So she hooks back up with Jack Harvey in February 2013. And she's talking to him. Cuffy gets busted. Then boom, March 2013, a month later, she gets about $50,000 or whatever. And then April, 60 days later, she's gotten 2 payments up to about $100,000, right? Then they talk about that and all of that. So let's get into it. Mr. Welby, good morning, Mr. Harvey, or good morning, Special Agent Harvey. Jack Harvey, good morning. Welby, CS1 provided you approximately 25 pages of documents that you described as the government's response to a motion to suppress. Jack Harvey, I have what she sent me and what I printed so I can describe it exactly. It was just one document that she had looked up on the computer on her, I guess it was, she said it was public records. Right. She had it, government's response to defendant's motion to suppress wire and electronic communications. So this is what spawned and frightened her, because remember, it was public records. She sent it to Jack Harvey, telling him, like, yo, why is this public records? People gonna know who I am. They're gonna figure me out. They're gonna come, you know what I'm saying, bust my head to the white meat. We gotta do something with this. And this is when she starts going crazy. Remember, writing up all these other affidavits and whatnot, trying to explain away what she's done. Okay? Then Welby goes into how do you pay an informant? Welby, you were asked a lot of questions by Mr. Herman about the rules that apply to confidential sources or CIs that are working for you. Do you remember that? Harvey, yes. Welby, are there rules regarding the types of payments that can be made? Jack Harvey, yes, there are rules generally concerning payments. Like I said previously, for smaller payments, you can get the approval from your supervisor or the ASAC, Assistant Special Agent in Charge. For larger payments, you have to going through headquarters, and every payment must be witnessed and certain procedures have to be followed. Yes. Welby, so you certainly couldn't pay a confidential informant for doing nothing. Jack Harvey, no, you can't. Welby, you can't just pay them $2,500 a month for no particular reason. Jack Harvey, it would be very unusual unless it's like an ongoing thing where the informant is, you know, running a business or living in an area where there is like a continuing receipt of valuable information that the informant will only receive if he or she is working here or living there and needed payment to exist. Then they go through all the documents and all that stuff needing to get approval for payments. Then they start talking about this form, the DEA Form 356, right? Welby, I'm going to show you what's previously been marked as Defendant's Exhibit M. Welby, what kind of document is this? Harvey, informant payment records. And under reason for payment, it says info / I think that's an abbreviation for services. Welby, and you were talking about different form numbers and things like that. If we look at this, is this DEA Form 356? Harvey, yes. Welby, is this something you would have dealt with in your career? Jack Harvey, no. I really didn't deal with the 356. I think that would be put together by the confidential cooperating individual coordinator, which every divisional office has. So that's a form that the typical street agent does not complete himself or herself. If we look at the payments, if we look at the payments that are made in the time period leading up to the affidavits signed in this case, which is August the 28th, 2012, do you see that each one of those payments are in the exact same amount? Jack Harvey, yes. Welby, and that amount is $2,500. Well, Harvey, yes. What did you say about August of 2012? Welby, the Title III affidavit in this case was issued or actually signed, whatever you want to call it, August 28th, 2012. So looking at the payments leading up to that time period, they are all for $2,500. Welby, could you pay someone $2,500 in cash? Jack Harvey, with approval, you could. Welby, who would approve that? Harvey, the supervisor and the ASAC, Assistant Special Agent in Charge. Welby, to your knowledge, are there any of these payments that were made prior to the Title III affidavit in August 2012? Were any of those connected to Tammy Cowins' work on the Terry White case? Jack Harvey. The Terry White case, the only possibility that would connect it to Terry White would be maybe the justification that these were advance payments on the award that Tammy Cowins was expecting. Welby cuts him off. Boom. If we look down just a little further on this, do you see two items that are marked as award? Jack Harvey, yes. March the 5th, 2013, and then April 16th, 2013. So remember, she comes back, she don't see Jack Harvey since 2011 when Terry White gets set up and knocked off. She sees Jack Harvey again February 2013, and then she gets two payments a month later. Are those amounts numbers that seem logical to you based on the forfeiture issues that were at stake in the Terry White case? Jack Harvey, it's possible. Welby. And if the prior payments were advances on the award, meaning if those prior $2,500 a month payments were advances on the award, that would also be documented on this form, correct? Jack Harvey, it should be. I just don't know what justification was used. So obviously those $2,500 payments weren't advances on this award. Welby, okay, that's fine. I understand you can't testify what you don't know. But the testimony you gave before is you spoke with her in February of 2013. Am I right? Harvey, yes. And she was expecting to receive the award soon, or you thought maybe even had received the award. Jack Harvey, yes. And at that time, she would have, yes. She had not yet received either of those big awards according to this paperwork. Welby. Shortly after that she received. Harvey, yeah, in March. Welby, over $100,000. Harvey, yes, in March and April, according to that paperwork. Welby. This Terry White case, you said that she contacted you about that case. Am I correct? Jack Harvey, yes. Check this out, y'all. Let me get a sip of Joe before we get into this. This is where it get deep at. How did she do that? Jack Harvey. Well, it was a little convoluted. She had first told another individual about the situation she had gotten into with White and how she wanted to sort of get away from that situation. And she asked his advice as to whether this person thought she had broken the law. And that person told her, yeah, you did. You stepped in it. You better try to get out of that. And this now, that person that she talked to was an ex-con and knew me, Jack Harvey. And he gave her my name. And he called me and said, hey, expect a call from this lady, Tammy Cowins. And she later did call me. And Tammy Cowins later did call me. Then he asked him, was it over the phone? Did you contact her? Or did she come into the DEA office? Well, when she called you, we set up the meet. You set up the meeting. We just set up the meeting. The meeting was in person. Welby, at the DEA office? Jack Harvey, at the DEA office. This is Jack Harvey. I honestly believed, hold on, in the information she had given you, Welby, and the information that she had given you prior to calling you is that she had broken the law. Harvey, well, yes, that was her concern. Welby. And the person with whom she spoke, the ex-con, told her, you better do something to get out of this. Jack Harvey. I honestly believe his motivation was to cause some trouble for Terry White so that maybe he could himself further his relationship with, that's just my speculation, with Tammy Cowins. In other words, he was a rival for her affection, I believe. Welby. So when you testified earlier that she believed that she needed to get herself out of this, that's what you're describing, that this guy had put that in her brain. Jack Harvey, yes, but I'll be honest. I right away told her that that's something that she probably would have been prosecuted for. Excuse me, I misspoke. Yes, but I'll be honest. I right away told her that's not something that she would have been prosecuted for, mainly because White himself wasn't under active investigation at the time. This case began with Tammy Cowins. Terry White was not under active investigation at that time. The case began with Tammy Cowins. But in the course of her activity, she laundered money for Terry White. Jack Harvey, unwittingly, yes. Welby. So if she took $40,000 advance on her credit card and received $50,000 back from Terry White in cash, you would believe that would be unwittingly? Well, that's what she told me. She had lost money in her dealings with White, that he hadn't paid her all that he owed her. I didn't even think that was her main motivation. I think she was just upset with him for having duped her. It was a relationship that began basically, according to her, over religion. That he would quote scripture, he was very knowledgeable, and she was religious. And that's what they first bonded over was religion. Welby. So she wasn't a criminal. She didn't have a lot of information about criminal activity. Jack Harvey. She had a lot of associates who were locked up. She was like a conduit of information among the BMF people. As far as running into criminals like the person that she talked to or who led her to me, just people that she either grew up with or had come to know. But she was not. See, the reason that I knew she was not in the thick of the criminal world is because my investigation of the BMF was lengthy and thorough. And I had a file 6 inches deep of all kinds of males and females associated with the BMF. And she was not among them. Welby, so her motive wasn't money. And it wasn't that she was trying to work off a case because you told her she didn't have a case. That was my review. Yes, Jack Harvey. Welby, it was essentially revenge against Terry White. Jack Harvey, you can call it revenge. Come on with the blowing the horn. That's the school bus. So that's where we at. Ain't no need for me to rehash it. Y'all just heard it. I just read it word for word. Now, check me out. Welby, you told us earlier that CS1, in this case, the Cuffy case, was CI1 in your case. Is that true, Jack Harvey? Yes. Welby, okay. In here, you do not describe her as a confidential source. In the Terry White case, you use the words cooperating individual. Is that correct, Jack Harvey? Yes. Remember we talked about the two different things? You cooperate when you get busted to get yourself out of something. You're a confidential source when you're doing something for payment. Check me out. Did you advise the court anywhere in this document that CS1 or CI1 in your case was a reliable, confidential informant? Did I advise the court in Atlanta on the Terry White case? Yes. Jack Harvey, I don't remember. I typically would, but I couldn't. I don't know. I don't know if I did. I wrote that affidavit, and I remember the assistant U.S. attorney at that time. He has since retired, Jim Martin. He was my editor. And he kept telling me, and this was unusual, you got too much, cut this out, cut that out. We don't need it. This is overwhelming, an overwhelming amount of information. Welby, the attorney. Mr. Harvey, there would be a difference in your mind if you describe someone as a cooperating individual than if you describe them as a reliable, confidential informant. Jack Harvey, well, depends on the circumstances. In that case, first of all, I couldn't say that she had previously provided information that led to any arrest. Well, because that's not true. Harvey, well, yeah, it hadn't happened in my view. She was a newcomer to the drug investigations, I believed. Welby, and at the section of your affidavit, you say that Tammy Cowins told you some information that what Terry White was doing in this case, exchanging cashier's checks payable to Terry White Group for cash, or in the alternative, cash advances on the credit cards, and then paying people back in cash. Jack Harvey, yes. Is that basically what he was doing? Jack Harvey, yes. And one of the people that he did that with in the autumn of 2006, an amount exceeding $100,000 were 3 individuals, one of whom is Tammy Cowins. And by CI1, I'm placing in there, is that correct? Jack Harvey, yes, that's correct. Welby says, okay, but you didn't describe her as a confidential informant, number one. You gave her actual name, Tammy Cowins. And then he tried to explain that it came from the financial investigation that was done. Then they go on to talk more about Tammy telling him about BMF and all of that. So there you have it, man. That's all I got for today. I got another video for y'all tomorrow. This was only half of Welby's cross-examination of Jack Harvey. Tomorrow we're going to get into Welby continuing to cross-examine Jack Harvey on the stand at the Franks hearing. He's under oath. If he lies, he's punishable by perjury, loss of reputation, prison, the whole thing. So there's pretty much no reason for him to lie. There's no motivation for him to lie. And I think tomorrow they get into, the Keith Cromer part, and we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. Shout out to everybody. Make sure you go follow me on my Spotify. The podcast was sold on Spotify. The podcast was sold on Instagram. Sean J. Peace.